because, yeah. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So being in sports is not that easy, and bringing in discipline in your life was something that my parents introduced to me. So the essential part that right now, from the childhood till now, whatever remains the same is the prayer time. So I wake up at a very probably it's too early for y'all. I wake up at 5 and my day starts with prayer. So for now, I feel starting my day with prayer is very much important, and that's the essential thing that I have as of now, which remained the same since the age of 5.
Thank you.
Good evening, Esther. I'm Agnes.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt loneliness, and how would you overcome it?
Okay. Loneliness, yes. I would have felt like there are so many areas that I felt lonely, but let me be a little specific and give you certain examples which I have experienced. That is, being in sports, your mother or your father can give you the best equipment that they could invest on you. Your coach will give you the best knowledge that he could, probably given. And, your inmates, that is your friends, your peers, your competitors might give all the support, the courage that is needed for you. But when you're on that start line, and it's all only you, so that is when you actually feel that though you have the entire support structure with you, but when you're on the start line to take off, in that particular event or a competition, that is when I used to feel lonely earlier. But later on, as and when I got into more serious through my church, the ministry that I was involved in, yes, I never felt lonely after a point, because I had accepted Jesus as my own personal savior. And yes, from that day onwards, I feel that there was no day that I felt that I was alone. So he always walked by my side.
Thank you, Esther. One more question.
Yeah.
Could you please share any one failure of your life and that you took it as a target to success?
Failures. Well, this is a very typical question that I keep getting in most of my seminars and webinars. And to be very frank, I haven't gone through any failure as such. If you ask my parents, or if you read about me in Google, it's only about winning. It's only about, I've never lost in any of the races. So I don't have an experience of getting into that failure or depression. But yes, when you guys face rejection in life, first thing that you guys need to do is to accept it. Yeah. Then you validate your feelings, make sure that you don't elaborate it, but look into it seriously, and don't compare yourself because you're already been rejected, or you're lonely, or you're failed in particular task. Don't compare yourself with your peer or your profession, or your any other employee that you have with, and face it with courage. I would say it's very easy to say, when you're rejected, or when you're you're failing in certain tasks, it's very easy to say face your fears. But when you validate your feelings, when you clarify, and when you know what you want, I feel there'll be some lesson to take away from your failure. There'll be some lesson to also learn through that period that you're going through, especially the phase that you're going through. So I would suggest always accept the rejection, or I would also say accept the failure that you are going through, but make sure you overcome it.
Thank you.
Let me invite someone from online. Anybody online? Arif, Jant, Ankush. If you have question for Esther, please turn on your video.
Yes.
You can ask.
Yes, I have question, sir.
Ankush, please turn your video on.
on. Yes. Esther? Hello,
Yes,
Esther.
yes, Ankush. I can hear you.
Yeah. What is important to a person is in his life? What is important to a person in his life, according to you?
Uh, see, there are many things that play an important role in different phases of your life. Like, for example, if you're an infant, if you're a baby, your mother is very important to you, right? Because she's the
Okay.
basic person to feed you.
Yeah.
So as and when you grow, your father plays an important role. You know, your father just comes in because he wouldn't have done anything when you are a baby. Then he comes in to nurture you. After that, your teachers come in. After that, your coaches come in. After that, your pastors come in, your mentors come in. So there are different, I feel there are different phases in your life which where different people play an important role. So
Okay.
it cannot be one particular thing, but yes, if you're a student, your studies is more important. If you're a
Yeah.
professional, working, of course, being following the work ethics and being prompt to your work is very much important. So different areas, I feel a lot of things are important in your life based on where you are, what you're doing, based on the circumstances that you are in.
Esther, I have another question for you.
Yes.
What is success according to you for a person?
I feel success is more of determination, hard work, maybe commitment, consistency, stability. I can go on, when it comes, because success is something that just cannot happen overnight. It happens through a process, and it happens when you give in your 100%, be it anything, maybe fixing your phone, maybe helping your parent at home, maybe at your school, at your college, at your work, whatever. If you're given your 100% and you know that you are satisfied by giving in your 100%, yes, I feel
Thank you, Esther.
that's success. Yeah.
Okay, we have Rukia here at the church to ask questions.
Hello.
You have to turn. Yes.
Hello. My name is Naya.
Hi.
What do you most enjoy
Sorry, I
being?
didn't get your name.
My name is Naya.
Her
Okay.
name is
Hi.
Rukia
I'm audible?
Nayab.
Yeah.
Okay, Nayab. Yeah.
What do you enjoy most being an entrepreneur?
Oh, I enjoy mostly is delegating work, because once you're an entrepreneur and you're confident about your profession, I enjoy teaching the same to others. Sharing my knowledge, whatever God has given, whatever God has taught me. I want to share it with others by giving wisdom to others in what I have learned, by sharing my knowledge to them. I feel very happy. If I don't go to my skating rink at 4:30 in the evening, I feel I've done some sin. Corona, the pandemic had put all of us, especially the sports people, in trouble. We are not athletes who can sit quiet at home. We are always on the move, running. But it was so sad to see ourselves sitting back at home doing nothing, no physical activity at all. So I feel very happy as an entrepreneur by going and seeing that there's something that is passed on from my generation to a next generation. So that's about it.
Thank you. Anybody else has question? Okay, Purnima has question here.
Hi, I'm Purnima.
Yeah, Purnima.
In your life, you feel something, I can't do this, and how you come out of that thing?
Can you be a little more
In your
yeah.
life,
Uh-huh.
you feel sometime I can't do this, I can't in anything, I won't, but you have to do. In how you overcome out of that?
Okay, it's basically overcoming fear, right?
Huh.
So I feel when do you feel that you cannot do, is that when you're getting scared, or you're not sure about that. So I basically trust in the Lord for everything that I do. Secondly is I think about the worst. For example, I'm not able to do something, like I'm not able to, cut an onion. The worst is I cry if I cut an onion. So I think about the worst of it. So I make sure, whenever I have that fear, I keep talking to it. I keep talking about it to people, maybe my mother, maybe my dad, maybe my husband, maybe my children. I keep talking about it, so that I overcome it. So these are few things that I feel, I don't keep it to myself, but I rather share it. And ultimately, we should understand that we are not perfect. Not everything is rosy. So not everything is easy as well. So basically, I first of all trust in the Lord. Then I imagine the worst to over. I imagine that's the worst that can happen. Then I know I keep talking about it, and of course, yes, we cannot be perfect, but I work towards being perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Adnan, you wanted to meet the champion. You have a question for the champion? Esther, you have a very nice fan here. He's never met you, but he's a fan.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, Adnan is waiting for the camera to be set so that you see him and he sees you.
Good afternoon, there, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Rather, good evening. I had a question for the sports person in you.
Mhm.
It might seem like I'm bragging about me, but I was a state level cricket player, and in
Wow.
2017 I was, and as I said, it might seem like I'm bragging. I was on peak of my career. I was 17 years old by then. I used to smash 25, 30-year-olds in the matches, and
Wow.
six state level matches I had played. I had already 3 or 4 centuries on my bat. So in 2017, I stopped playing cricket because of an injury that was not a career-ending injury, but it was because of my ego. Some things happened. I stopped playing cricket in 2017, and I am 22 years old now. Can I get back to it can I pursue it as a career again if I want to at this age? And if I need to start it, I need to start from scratch.
Wonderful. I think we have a celebrity here, so you all have to take an autograph from him before you guys go. It is so nice to hear about his profile. Why not? You're born with talent, and you're saying that you could beat the 30-year-olds, and you could smash runs and wickets and whatnot. When you're born with talent, and the injuries happen, and now that you're fit enough, if you feel you're fit enough, your talent will never ever get burnt. Okay, there's something like a few sports like skating, swimming, cycling, all these, once you learn, you never forget. I'm sure cricket has its own talent, and you are talented, and you are not like you've reached the senior citizen age. You're still in your early 20s. That's the peak age. You can still get back, motivate yourself, and whatever stopped you earlier, stop thinking about it and keep focusing on what you want, and obviously you can get back. There is no age bar for a sports person. Even today, I'm going to turn 40 in few days. I feel I don't say I feel very proud about myself, because I keep motivating myself, and I want to even participate in the Masters Nationals this year. So my mind never stops thinking. I'm like, what next? What I want to do. So as a sports person, I think that zeal in you should never be burnt out. You should always have that challenging spirit, because you are talented. If you are on a peripheral level, and you were just scoring few runs and getting out, and you were not being identified, but you yourself are proclaiming that you were a talented cricketer, why not? Why should you keep all your kit back home, lie to rest? Why not put it on the field again? So that's my word of encouragement for you. I'm sure you would work on it, and next time I meet you, I come and take an autograph with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for that. And there's one question, is how do you manage multiple things? You are a mom to 2 children. You also won Mrs. India, South India pageant, beauty pageant 2 years ago. You are an athlete, you are a sport personality, you are a wonderful wife and a mother. You are an awesome singer in the choir. And there are many things. How do you manage all these things?
First of all, I like to thank God for blessing me with so many talent. And I would not, as I told him as well, I would not like to put anything to rest. So whatever you want to learn, whatever God has blessed you with, you have to make use of it, because one day you're accountable. He will ask you, I have blessed you with so much. What have you done for me? So when it comes to multiple things and multitasking, probably I would say I have taken help. My support structures such that, maybe my parents, maybe my husband have all stood by me whenever I want to do multiple things. Like, I also work for a school called Vibgyo. I head the department of skating pan India. So I work in the mornings. I'm just a consultant there. I work in the mornings. I train the coaches across India for skating. And, then I come back, then I spend time with my family. Then it's time for my skating. So it is, for me, basically multitasking happened when I was a kid. So my mom introduced me to something called scheduling. She was very strict on it. So she used to wake me up at 5 in the morning, then go to my practice, do my quiet time, go to my practice, come back, shower, go to school, come back again, have something, go to evening practice, come back, family prayer, eat and sleep. So that I felt only that is world. I didn't have any other, I didn't have any other thing to tempt me. So I felt that is the structure and I need to follow. If I don't follow, I wouldn't get this. So basically, when you're multitasking, you have to be disciplined. You have to self-discipline yourself. You need to be stable. You need to be consistent. See, for example, today I put in a schedule. There are many people who say Monday morning, first thing I go is to gym. That Monday never comes. Some people say 1st of November, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to go on a good diet. Forget about November, December, it doesn't come at all. So you have to be consistent in what you make. You have to have that, whenever you're deciding something, you have to stick to it. You have to be firm on your decisions. Okay, once you basically understand what you want and you write down things. I'm very much into writing. I write a lot of diaries. So I write, my first thing is the checklist for the day. So I do, this, morning I'm going to do this, evening, afternoon, so and so. I have to make sure I've spent time with my young boys. They're just 10 and 12. All this happens only when you know what you want to do that day. When you just get up and out of nowhere, you just take things how it comes. I'm sorry, that's not discipline in your life. You need to know, because you are the one who's going to face that day. So you need to know what you want. So if you want to achieve something, you have to chalk down those things. So that's very much important. So when you are multitasking, basically schedule yourself, discipline, be stable, be consistent, and so on.
All right. Thank you very much, Esther. We have another last question from Pavan.
Hi, Esther.
Yes, Pavan. Hi.
My name is Pavan.
Yes, Pavan.
My question is, I think usually the majority of the skaters are seen in foreign countries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Being an Indian, what inspired you to become a skater?
What inspired me to become a skater? Is that your question? Okay, I never planned to be a skater because my mom just walked me to a park when I was 5-year-old and asked me, you want to go on the swing and slides there, or you want to skate? So skating looked much fascinating because no effort. I saw people just going, and speed thrills me. So I think maybe that time without knowing anything, I said, I want to skate. So I don't know whether that was the right decision or, a wise decision at the age of 5. Yeah, so that's how I got into sport. Yeah, as you told, skating was not that very much, what do you say? Skating was not a promotional sport as such back then, but now, yes, due to a lot of PRs and good infrastructures and good number of record that has been happening by Indian skaters, it's taken its own stand. And yes, our sport is going to be recognized in Olympics soon. Last Olympics, we were introduced to skateboard. So speed skating is going to come in anytime soon. So though there was no recognition during my days, but we did get our own fame and name, probably in the local newspapers when we topped the state, when we went international. Yes, we did lack in a lot of things. We didn't get updated equipments. We used to use whatever is available in India. Then probably not good infrastructure, probably not a good trainer who's well equipped and technically sound in India. But yes, somehow we managed and made our name. But now, nowadays, skaters are getting a good exposure. They have an international coach coming in and training them. We have got multiple sports complexes. We have got multiple band tracks for skating, exclusive international level. So I feel the sport is being recognized now. And right now we have our world championships happening in Colombia, and most of our skaters, I think 3 from Karnataka have gone, and that's a big number to be in the Indian team. So I feel, yeah, we are getting somewhere. Yes, we were not recognized earlier, but yes, now we are making our name.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Esther. And we thank you very much for joining us online and answering I think about 10 questions. I don't know, I haven't counted, but thank you very much for your inputs. It was nice meeting you. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
all right, we'll move on to 2 questions for Pastor and then Brother Ajaz. So I don't know who asked, what made you to become a pastor? And why do you want to become a
Who's
pastor?
that question?
You,
Who's that?
Sahana wanted to ask a question. Yes, you can pass the mic, please.
Hello, Pastor.
The sister.
As I asked you, how do you spend your time when you're alone?
Before I was alone, but now I'm with wife. Okay. So when I was alone, it's been for 7 years. I'm working here as a pastor. Whenever I'm alone, I used to spend time with God, because when I'm alone, it feels so lonely when there is no beside me and after me and behind me and before me. And there is no one, even I don't have TV to watch that. So when I feel lonely, most of the time I sing. Even my parents, even my aunt, and they'll say, I'm a bathroom singer. When I go to the bathroom also, when I shower, I used to sing. So through that, I used to spend my time loneliness. I think I never felt like that loneliness, because as you sing and do even sometime my wife is here. I used to dance also at home. Okay, just to take a step and do some gymnastic work. So through that way, I felt no loneliness in my life and not felt alone also. So now I have my wife, so it is good for me. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, sister.
My question is, why do you confess embarrassing sins of the people, and how do you confess them?
You know, when you say the word sin, it is just a missing mark. Someone said to do and you're not doing. Some say you do it, but intentionally or unintentionally you don't do it. But if you want to confess it, it is better to confess, because you'll not have that burden what you have committed sin. If people ask you to confess, if you're okay with that, you can confess. Or else if you don't, or if you're not okay with that, you can confess to God, because God is the one who hears and he knows what you have done. knowingly or unknowingly or intentionally or unintentionally, what you have done, God knows that. So better to give that whatever you have committed sin, or whether it is small, whether it is big. Sin is a simple meaning, it is a missing a mark. The target God or someone has target you, or if this is a mark, if you're missing that, it is a sin. So it is better to confess before God.
Okay. Thank
What?
you. Sorry, Purnima. Yes.
It's okay. What made you become father?
Okay. This is a God calling. It's not my intention I should become. So let me tell you the story. When I was small, I saw a person who died, okay? He was a pastor. So he was wearing a white gown. So we call it father and cassettes, okay? So he was in the coffin box. Looking at him, where there is a green collar, what is this, veil or something on his body. So I thought that if I die also, they will put me a white cassette and so much flowers. So I'm thinking that way. So I thought that I'll become a pastor, but keep on going and education and all, I didn't become a pastor, that means father, okay? So one day God called me for his purpose to fulfill. I felt that it is a fashion, becoming a pastor. It is my ambition. It is my desire, but it's not my desire. It is a God is the one who called me, because he has given me a life to on this earth, where even when you see the new baby to come to this world, you know, experience, some of you not. So when you see that there is a purpose you're coming to this world. So find out that why God has called you, what is the reason, and then you'll know that whether it is God calling or whether your own idea or desire.
What are the sacrifice you to become father?
Okay. Sacrifice in the sense,
It have any restrictions?
not at all. See, when I see for God is the one who calling me. Why do I need to sacrifice? Because he is the one who sacrificed his life for me, and he died for me, and he is the one who given me the life. So once he given the life, so I should be able to do anything for him. Like you have ambition and all. If you got the good job and all, you have a desire to feed your family, father or mother. So I think there is no sacrifice, right? So in my life, there is no sacrifice, but God has sacrificed his life for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to Brother Ejaz. Oh, you have a question? Okay, we
Hi,
have
sir.
a question for
I'm
Pastor.
My question is, how do you believe in God, and why do you believe in presence of God?
How do you believe in God?
Why would you believe in the presence of God?
Okay. I believe in God because if there is something existed, there must be a reason. If there is any cause, there must be a cause. If there is no cause, there must be no causeless. So everything has a beginning. So who put my life? Just we think. So when I was child, I was thinking God is the one who created us, right? Then who created my father and mother? Then who created my father and mother? Their parents. It's go on, go on. So there must be a one God. And I thought that better to believe him because he is the one who given me the life. Because when we go to the hospital, we'll know that the medical things and all, we cry for the life, whether it is small, whether it is during the corona. When you look at those situations, once you visit the hospitals, you'll know that what is the life. And eventually when the life is sinking, even the doctor says operation all success, but the patient is lost. So after you sell, there is no other God. So you have to depend upon God itself. So there must be a beginning. So that must be a God. So I believe in God. And why should I believe in God? Because he's the one who created me. And he is the one who brought me to this world. And he's the one who given me the purpose to fulfill for his desire, and whatever he has a will, I need to fulfill that.
Another question. the things that we do with the intention that is good, that could be a bad or it could be a sin. Why don't we think in another perfect perspective?
Can you repeat the question?
The things that we do with an intention that
Okay.
is good could be bad or it could be a sin.
So you have given me the choice, good and bad, right?
Ah.
If there is any perspective or any other things, if it is good, we can say it is good.
How can you consider that is good, this is bad?
Okay. The inner spirit will tell you. Even the small children, you don't know when they do something wrong, okay? Intentionally, they don't do it. They by mistake. So for stealing also, even if you give them slap, they will give it back to you. They don't know when they are small, in the childish way they do it. But as you grow up, eventually something inner heart, if you have done something mistake, that will always speaks to you. Hook or crook, anyway, that will target you that you have done wrong, better to confess it. This is a bad, this is a good. That surely everyone has an inner spirit. Even you want to, so many students, when they fail in their lives, they try to suicide. When they're hanging themselves, just they'll think about their parents, eventually, whether wife or husband, whether their children. They think that it is a bad, but yet the depression and the satanic activities, it loses them and they'll ended up in committing suicide. So the inner being, what God has given you, the soul, the decision, the mind, the heart, whatever you select, that will show that this is good and this is bad. Did I answer?
I'd like to add on to that. Your question was how to analyze a particular thing is good or bad in our life, right? You see, if you ask a person who drinks, he says that drinking is good. But if you ask a person who does not drink, I mean the alcohol and things, he will say drinking is bad. So it depends on the person, that is one thing. And there are various parameters in which you can differentiate good and bad. Out of which one I would like to let you know, which you can experiment in your life. Whatever things you do, if you are able to share it, do it in front of your parents, it's good. If you're not able to do it in front of your parents, it's a bad thing. Like you copy in your exam, for example, you share it with your parent. If they are good parents, they will say obviously it's bad. So it's a bad thing. Say you smoke in front of your parents. If they are good parents, that's a condition of life. Okay, if they are good parents, they will tell that it is bad. So it's a bad thing. Like that, you can categorize everything, whatever you do in your life, whether what you're doing is good or bad, can be analyzed by correlating it with your parents, like you're doing it in front of your parents. That's it. That's one way. Okay. So what Pastor said can also be done. You can find n number of ways in which you can categorize good and bad. This is one.
I have a question for the pastor. What are you grateful for and what do you think life is?
Repeat once again.
What are you grateful for and what do you think life is?
First, I'll answer for life, okay? When I think about the life is very short. I don't know whether I live today or tomorrow, whether you live today or tomorrow, we don't know. Life is very short. We need to enjoy. So think that life is like a bubble on the water. It may vanish any time in any way. But when you have that time, use that time. It's very important. If you just take the calculator, how many years old you are, okay? And from the child till now, you think that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 rupees, is it very big amount or small amount? Small amount? It is a small amount. Same thing. Now 25 or 30, just calculate 365 into 35. Please calculate. How many of you really old here? Like 30, above 35? No, below 30? We'll come up to 25 into 365 days. Like how many years old? Yeah. How many days? 12,000? 775. So your days are only 12,775 from your childhood to till now. So use that one. So I'm grateful that I'm alive. Okay, today I'm alive because only I spent 12,775 days. If I give to you that 12,775 within one day, not one day, within 6 hours, we'll spend that. So I'm grateful my life. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to Ajaz. Hi, Ajaz.
Hey,
Ajaz, I heard that your name is Ajaz.
yeah,
but
Muhammad
your
Ajash.
Muhammad Ajaz. So how did you come to church?
Okay, it's a long story, but I put in
You can put
a
it in
brief.
short.
Yeah, I put in very short. I was a born Muslim, and I was an activist in Islam, and I was walking in my religious path to attain the. I will not say attain to do my duties, because Islam is all about duties, and we follow some rituals. That's the main thing. At the age of 15, because of my life and many things influenced me, I thought of committing suicide. And I was a very inferior, complex guy, and I couldn't survive. Almost 6 months later, I thought of committing suicide. And after that time, on a particular day, I was on the way to commit suicide, and I saw a verse in the tree: "Your sorrows will turn into joy." And from that day onwards, my life changed, and by encounter of Lord Jesus in my dream. And it's a different story altogether, but my whole life changed by that one dream. And it changed, because a dream cannot change people, but it changed me. Then my whole life has gone into different fast action movie, and God blessed me wherever I am now. So almost last 15 years, 17 years, I'm into Christ, and almost, yeah, that's how I came, bro.
Thank you, Ajaz. Now, do you have questions for Ajaz? Okay, just we have Agnes asking you a question.
Good evening, Ajaz.
Good evening.
My question is anyone has rejected you in your life?
Yes, many rejection in my career. Whenever I go for interviews, they reject. And whenever we try to say, okay, I have achieved something, and for the other people, it seems nothing, they reject. So rejection is there every day. And I will not say every day, but every situation you may face the rejection. I face the rejection too, but never I was disappointed, but I was trying to find the next way to go towards what I should achieve. I will say that achieve to make myself stability, and make myself standing on the ground, and to face the truth. So I understood the world is full of rejection, fear, loneliness. So I understood to face it and keep moving forward. Yes, I have gone through rejection, and I know how to come out from that.
Please, could you tell me some tips like how to come over it?
Okay, to talk about rejection, there's two things you should always keep in mind. I'll say one is about yourself, and about what is your ideas. When I talk about myself, I will tell that, okay, I always believe that if I need to do something, then I will plan accordingly and try to do that something. And I always try to keep those target to be more optimistic. Being optimism is very important. You have to be more positive, grounded to move towards. And the other thing is, I will say the main thing is about my faith in Christ. So, because whenever I pray, I say, Lord, thank you for the faith and the hope and the joy what I have in my life. That's how I pray. You know why? Because there should be some objective grip on my life to trust on somebody who is more eternally pure, eternally lovable, eternally righteous God. So when I believe on Him, and whenever I face rejection, I just believe on Him and keep moving forward. I will say my faith on Christ made me to stabilize myself, and I overcome because of His relationship. And also I understand that this world is mere nothing. So only thing is I have to pass through that valley. It is not that I'm going to stay permanently, but I have to pass through it. So that's how I try to come out from rejection. And one thing is I be very optimistic. Second thing is I believe in Christ, and to be a righteous person walking on His own words. I believe on that.
Thank you, Jas.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Rukia Nayab asking a question for Brother Ejaz.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you mean by religion?
Okay, if you ask me religion, in Wikipedia says that a group of people believes in group of faith. That's called as religion as per Wikipedia. And to me, if you ask me, I don't believe in any religion, and I'm not a religious guy. If you ask me that way, in a secular world, I don't follow the rituals. Religion is all about traditions following, rituals following. You have a lot of methods to do. I don't believe in that because if you ask me, I'm still a Muslim. I'm legally a Muslim, but my faith is completely in Christ. So what I believe is the inner healing and the inner changing is all about the religious duties. I mean, the end of the religion has to be the changed person inside you. So I always call a spirituality. What is spirituality? We always say in Bible, always it teaches us your heart should not trust on this world. You should not boast on your flesh. You have to make sure you are going away more from this world. At the same time, you have to live in this world. It's very hard. It means you may be watching along with your 300 friends a movie, but your heart is not on the movie. Your enjoyment is not on the movie. Your joy is not on the movie, but you will just be there and you will complete your own life. Religion is all about rituals and tradition. Spirituality is all about changing yourself from inside, a new beginning from you. That is very important in life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ejaz. Agnes has a question.
Just like personally, like I have fallen down in my life. Okay, somebody has rejected me.
Mm.
So I don't feel like sharing about my pain, even with the parents or friends. So how would you suggest me to come out of that?
Okay. See, if you ask me, I understood your specific how you're going through. I have gone through such. I have gone through same situation like how you gone through, but you have to accept the reality. See, when we keep our happiness on somebody else, the rejection will deeply hurt us. That we have to come out. Our happiness should not be on somebody else. Don't give your happiness to anybody else. Neither to your husband, neither to your wife, to your children, your friends, parents. Don't give any happiness to them. If you ask me, I will say keep your happiness only on the quality life and to live to trust on the Lord. Because when you trust on him, he never rejects you, he never abandon you, he never forsake you. Can you get such promises anywhere? No one can give that. Bible says that God never leave you, forsake you. When somebody is giving you a more objective, ultimate promises that I will not leave you, I will not reject you, then you have to trust on that person always. And you have gone through the pain, you are being rejected because you feel the pain of rejection. The reason is because you more love him or love that incident or love that person, and your joy, your happiness was only on him. Prove the world, tell him that you're happy, tell him that you're more happy than whatever the gap you have with them. Whenever a couple come and meet me, I always tell them, they say that my husband wants to torture me, my wife always wants to pinpoint on something and bother me. I tell them, see, the moment you feel the pain from the opponent, that is what they want. When they hate, they want to literally feel that hateness. When your friend is hating you, they want to literally feel that pain. But when you go and tell them, I'm not cornered by that, I'm not going to depend on you, and I'm still happy, when you show that you are still happy, they will not keep bothering, they will just keep barking and go away from your life. So make sure that your trust and you love the Lord, and your joy is only on him, and that will make sure your life is not about rejection, more about going towards that path. You'll overcome and keep moving on that path.
Okay, one more question is like when I fall down spiritually, like even though like I believe in God, I pray a lot, but at certain point I might fall down and I might think, okay, there is no one in my life who can like understand me or support me. So in that situation, like what I should do?
You're a perfect man. I'm telling you, you're a perfect human because the first man fall down. The importance of we should know the truth. Human is a fallen race. It's not only angel. As per by biblical background, angels has fallen down, and you have to keep in mind humans also fallen down. So we are already fallen down, which means we know the truth. We know the knowledge of good and evil. That is a fallen down state. What happened, the Bible background, you'll feel that when Adam and Eve was good, they were eating. There were two type of tree in the Garden of Eden. One tree has got the knowledge of good and evil. Other tree has got a knowledge of, the fruit of life. So when you eat this fruit of life, you can live many years. You can see in the Bible, Adam lived more than 900 years. Medushal, almost every people live more than 900 years. Basically, they were eating the fruit of life. But when they fallen down, God did not allow them to eat that fruit. And God told them, because you have become like one of us, which is like, the good and evil, that is fallen down, because we don't know how to handle the evilness. We know evil, but we try to mess up with evil. Now, when you say that you have fallen down, that's an actual good state. We already fallen down. Now, only one thing is Bible says, even 70 times you fall down per day, you have to run like a horse. When horse falls down, it jumps back and keep moving on. But when an elephant falls down, it cannot get up. When you talk about the reality, humans are like horses, not like elephants, but our thoughts are like elephants. We can get up and we can keep moving forward, but you have to trust that you have fallen down. God is not here to make us more holy person. Keep that in mind. But he wants us to exercise holiness. That is something very important. God said, if God wants to make us holiness, I'm telling you, immediately when Adam and Eve fallen down, Jesus Christ might have come the same next birth through Adam, and he has taken the cross and he has blood shed for us. He has resurrected that same day, and you're told that now I made you holiness, and you're come out from the fallen nature. That was not the theme of the Bible. Bible said that God wants to make us more of a righteous person, and the Hebrew words, it says he's a God of Sigdenu, which is a God of righteousness. You know what God wants from you today? Like Romans 10:9 and 10 says, if anybody believed that Lord Jesus Christ went to the cross, died for my sins, resurrected, when you believe this, you are saved. That's it, you become Christian. And whatever you said from your own mouth, when you believe in your heart, you become a righteous person. See, being righteous person is not at all a human can attain. Keep in mind. Because when holiness was there, Adam and Eve was holy person, they fall down. When the angel Lucifer, the fallen angels, before they were in holiness, they fall down. But when somebody was in righteousness, they will never fall down because they know to handle the righteousness, right and good. So my only answer for this is, you know that you are a righteous person through Christ. And now what you should do is declare all the days of your life, living a good girl, good boy, lead a quiet life, and mind your own business, like Bible says. Do that, and you will not have any issue. Falling down is common, but you have to exercise, move towards your faith. That is very much important.
Thank you, Jas.
Thank you, Jas.
Thank you.
I would invite Esther to give insights. As a woman, Esther, when you fall down, when you go through that pain, what exactly do you think a woman should do?
There's nothing like a woman or a man here. Probably all of us would sail through the same kind of rejection or depression or whatever comes our way. But as I told earlier as well, we need to accept it, first of all, and then, validate our own feelings and make sure that we stand strong. So, the more that we show that we are weak, because our understanding and our support structure, and we lean only towards the Lord, whatever it is, whatever circumstance it is, maybe even for a smaller things, we look up to the Lord and ask for his help and seek for his help. So our direction to him and our questions to him should always be direct, and then the answers would fall in, appropriately according to our situation. So as a woman, I would say that we need to stay strong and never break up, never break down rather, but understand and validate ourselves. And I feel when you accept rejection, that you learn a lot of things. That phase teaches you a lot of things that you as a person wouldn't expect that you're learning something. There are a lot of takeaways during that phase. So yes, that's about it.
Thank you, Esther. Do we have any questions for Professor Alvin here? No questions for him? He looks too young for you, is it? Do we have any questions for Ejaz? Okay, Tahir has a question for Ejaz.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you believe in hell and heaven?
I do believe.
Sorry,
I do believe. I do believe.
but you said religion is not important.
Mm.
Then
Yeah. See, there is the context of when what was my what I want to convey is when you try to be more religious, you get nothing because I was explaining religion is all about traditions and doing this and that. But you be a part of anything, but when you have a when you physically you're part of any religion and when you believe in Christ, I'm talking about Jesus Christ and walking as per his words, you end up in going into a new change in your life. In Christianity, I've always seen you have different multiple people, multiple religious people come inside to Christianity, multiple the groups of people, community of people, language people come to Christianity. They all live a good life. I'll say a one life, which is more of a renewed life. And when you talk about hell and heaven, Bible says that it is not about tormenting. God is not telling that I will take you inside and I will torment. By biblically, if you see, the hell was found for the fallen angels. It was not formed for the human. And heaven is the place where the God's presence is residing. And we believe when a human in this world, when you have a good life, as per what the Bible says, when you believe, because so there are two things. Why do you want to believe in Jesus? Is because we are already in fallen state. There is somebody who have to take the responsibility for your sin, and he has to help you out. There was one good God, and he said, I will come into this world as a human tribe, and I will go for you as a martyr, as a sacrifice, and I will take all your punishment, and I will take you to the heaven. He gave these words, and it was not one person suddenly said. It was said from the day of Adam. It was said almost 4,000 years before Jesus came. And almost when he came, he said that. And it was a big prophecy fulfilled from the Bible, historically proven that he lived, he died, and he was no more. So because historically they can't record it, he was resurrected, but they found that it is no more. And still there's an open tomb in Israel. You can go, you'll find it's open tomb. It's not closed. You can't find burial place for anybody else. Only for Jesus, you don't have any burial place. You just have open tomb there. So what he says is, I will come and take you, and I will take you to heaven. And whenever people reject God and don't want to believe in him, and they go to a faraway place, which is hell, we call. Because when you don't have God, when it means that you don't have purpose, you don't have hope, you don't have meaning. And imagine you have a half breath, like suffocating breath, like this, you have a suffocating breath for eternity, living in darkness. What is going to bring for you? Nothing is going to bring. Keep that in mind. I always believe there is one story they say in a space when astronaut was hanged out in the space, and he has got two bottles of medicine with him. One is the bottle of living eternally and the bottle of dying. So he chose to die because what he's going to do in the floated space, it's full of darkness, nothing is there. So he chose to take that poison of death. But unfortunately, he drank the poison of eternity that was more poison, more eternally gloomed and darkened. That place is called hell. So God is not going to convince you and put you into a hell and burn you alive. But the hell is a more place of going far from the God, and you live eternally, but there is no hope, no purpose. You shout, you scream, you are in deep darkness. It's nothing. You live eternally. I'm talking about not thousands of years. Eternally, you will be such. That is hell.
Thank you. Would you want
Thank
to
you.
ask a question to Pastor also? You want to get some more insight on it, Tahir?
yes, that's it.
You have another question for Pastor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening.
What do you think? I mean, religion is important, means mandatory to live in this world.
Not at all. Religion is not important.
I had a question to the pastor.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a short-tempered person. Due to this, it has cost me personally and professionally a lot.
Okay.
I want to come out of this and I can't, but I can't. How do I overcome this?
When you said I can't,
I have tried, but eventually I lose temper
Do you have
really fast.
desire that you should come out that this? Which one is controlling? Is that your temper is controlling you, or you are the one who controlling? The
I have
temper?
to control my temper, but it's happening the other way.
I'll tell you one thing. If you want to control your temper, it's maybe from outside or inner being. You have to forget the things what happened. That is very essential for human beings. If you keep on pondering about those things, what you have done mistake or someone else called at you and they made you to get the temper, okay? So it better you forget that one. You should think always that nothing is happening or happen. So then only you can overcome out of that one. If you keep on thinking that, that means you are the person himself putting under that feet. So better don't ponder about that. Don't think about that one. What is happen. Think about what is the next. So you'll not get fall into that. Thank you.
Father, can you agree with this line? In face is index of heart.
Face is the index of heart.
Failure.
Face, mukha.
Index is the heart.
Yes.
I don't think so. You know why? If you're a psychology students, go to the everything. So they mention always heart is very important, and heart will tell you everything. Just think about this one. Is it your mind will give the connection? Is it your mind will give the target? Which one will you have to hear, the mind or the heart? But some people say you have to listen to your heart. Is that right or wrong? Huh? It might be, but which one is important? Heart or mind? Mind, right? You got my point. The mind is very important, not the heart. Your heart will tell you the face. No. Many people, they may misinterpret that one. Whatever your heart says, you have to know. The heart will not say anything. Whatever you have, anything happen to your body, or it will give the signal to your mind. Then only you can understand and have a response for that.
Have any questions? Are you getting late? Is
Hello,
it
Pastor.
interesting?
Yes.
According to you, what is life?
Yeah, answered before. Okay, you can, no problem, no problem. What is the life, right? I told once again, I'll change it. Life is very short again, I'm telling you. You need to spend very sensitively and very carefully. No life, there is a beginning, and there for the life there is an end. In that only, what you spend in that, after getting the conscious spirit from age, I don't know whether what age you got the conscious, whether it is doing right or wrong, till your breath of last breath, what you spend, that is a life. Whether you are spending wrongly or rightfully or wickedly or righteously, what you spend that during that days and the hours and the minutes, that is a life.
Pastor, can you share one of your happiest or joyful moments?
Okay, that's really good question. Thank you. I'm from Hubli, okay? Hubli. Yeah, HUBLI from Dharwad district. You know the Hubli persons, how they are. I'm so soft looking at you all, you think, right? But we are very dangerous people, okay, Hubli people. But you know, when I said that, first sister asked me the question, the call of God, that literally changed my life. Otherwise, I would have not sit before you and given an answer to you. That is my life when I accepted Christ as my personal savior. Not religious perspective, whether pastor said or whether someone said. from my heart, literally I'm telling from my mind, my soul and my spirit. You know, many people, you are well educated. You should know you are very good, talented. Your brains are very sharper than anything. God has given such a talent and such a gift for you. So when you realize those things, why I'm here, what is the reason I'm here on this earth, gaining everything on this earth, like car, bungalows and everything. But when you leave this place, nothing you're going to carry. Nothing. Your professional, your name, even name you forget it. Even your own family will tell you that take out the body from the house. They never call your name. Finisher. When you die, there is an end for your name. Your identity is lost. Even other. When the family is only forgotten your name, there is no need of Aadhaar card, right? So that is my happiest day when I accepted my Savior, my God, that He has promised me that if you die today, you'll be in heaven. So that is amazing for me. If I die today, I'll be in heaven. So there is no death for me again. So in our in Christianity, we say, if you don't mind that, if you die at once, you'll die 2 times. To say simply, if you are born today, right? Without knowing anything, you have to die 2 times. How? Yeah, I'll tell you. Thank you. If you're born once, okay, you'll die 2 times. If you're born twice, you'll die only 1 time. You may not die anytime. No, you may not die. As sister said, as she raised the question, how? See, birth is for everyone, right? You'll born from your mother womb. After 9 months, you'll face everything and you'll come out from the mother womb. That is the joy. So as the age goes, without knowing anything, spending time in your education, your professional, your career and everything, and there is a last end. You should know that everyone should reach that goal. On that goal, that will tell you your destiny, what you have done to this world and to your parents and the one who especially created you, your God. You should know Him first, the one who created you, the one who is given the breath of life. You should know that first. Then you only understand whether I'll die twice or I'll die once. That is the one. If you born twice, that means physical birth, and there is called another call is a spiritual birth. Inner, that is makes you strong, not a physical. Your emotion, your soul, your mind makes you strong, not physical body. That's why if anyone gets the accident and all, they'll go to the coma. If he come back out of coma only, he knows whether sensitive, whether you touch or pinch, he will understand. Otherwise, only the body will be there in ventilator. So if you born by birth, if you born once, you have to die twice. If you born twice, you may die, you may not die. Yes.
Mike.
Personal question.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you say marriage is compulsory? Because like why? When we attain certain age, like parents will insist us to get married. Like not for boys, boys will have certain age, like after 30 also they can marry. But when we speak about girls, so specifically they insist girls should get married. So we have so much of dreams that I should stand on my foot, I should achieve my dreams. I have to travel out of the country like that. But most of the time what they do, like, no, girls should get married because they will have a secured life. They think that if girl gets married only, she will be secured. Why can't she stand alone and face it everything? So in that case, do you suggest a marriage is really needed for a girl to stand alone?
Can I elaborate it more?
Yes.
Okay. When you ask me the personal, right? So I'll be personal and more practical. No, marriage, when people say it is compulsory or not compulsory, it depends upon you.
But the society will not allow. Like
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
most of the
Society
time,
will not allow.
parents will think of society, not about the children.
So when parents will insist you because they fear about the woman, okay, something will happen and all. But tell me literally I'm telling, frankly I'm telling, especially boys we should fear. Okay, for the marriage, boys should fear. Why I'm telling? God has given you a gift of life, especially for the women. Okay, practical I'm telling. We cannot hold 5 kgs of bag every day and carry. But you people have the ability to carry babies, 9 months, 1 kg, 1.5 kg, or 2 kgs baby every time. Okay. But especially, and you also think boys' age will be okay, they say, whether 30 or 35. Practically, I'm speaking, okay, because you ask personally and practical I should be, right? Yeah, sorry, wait, I forgot. 35 is okay, 30 okay, 31 is okay. For girls?
25.
Why?
One factor could be like they couldn't conceive like after like some age bar, or like they think like she'll be alone and she has to depend on somebody. So the husband will take care and protect her in all the way.
Right. But in reality, okay, they'll at the early age, they'll give marriage so he can or she, oh, no, sorry, she can take care of the
Family.
husband.
Who will take care of us?
You. Ourselves.
That is a burden for us also.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. You got the point. This sister, why I'm telling you, know, see, if compulsory, say one on the another day, you feel lonely.
What if the case, like if I get married, if that person dies, then I will be alone.
That's why I'm coming to the point. So it's, as I said, the boy's age will be very old, 30 or 35 or 32, 33. And the wife age will be 23, 24. If he sudden dies, okay, that's what I told you before. If he sudden die, you have to take care of him. If you're on the deathbed, if you're in the hospital, you have to carry him.
So marriage is like ultimately we should take care of the husband.
No, I'm not turning that point. Their perspective as a society, they tell. But according to you, what marriage is that one on the another, you feel lonely. At the age bars and your parents will go away, they'll pass away. And your ultimate, someone should be there. You should not feel guilty after that. I should have married. Hook or cook, my children should have been there to take care of me. Do you think that you'll be same as you are now? No, you will change. As the age goes, you will change. Someone has to be beside you. Maybe the husband is good or no bad. I don't think about that. So as age goes, you need someone. If the baby is there, the boy will rise up, the girl will rise up to take care of you. So marriage, in my perspective, in my view, it is necessary. I'm not telling it is compulsory. It is necessary.
Because like I have seen most of the cases, like even though they are love marriage, at certain point they have gone for divorce and all. So in that case, like who will be the sufferer? Ultimately, a girl has to suffer. So she will have 1 or 2 kids. If she doesn't have any like career support to stand alone and like look after the baby, like ultimately she will have a lot of burden. She has to face the world. So in that case, like how will the world of family can suggest that marriage is like safe and secure for the girl? Only people who, okay, for example, if I take your example, you might have seen some happiness in your life or your wife might have been supportive for you. That is the reason you say like marriage is necessary. But there are in reality, like if I take my family also, there is a lot of struggles, like how my parents have brought up and how we are struggling. Like if I see that, so certain point I think, okay, marriage is not good for us. Like we have to take a lot of responsibilities. Being alone, I feel okay, even if I drink 1 glass of water, I can sleep. But when I marry, even if I don't date, I have to think of the husband and children. So like that time, I think being alone is safer than getting married and being into trouble.
Okay, you are at practically, you are alone at home, no father, no mother, no relatives, no sister, no brother. If you get sick, what is your desire? What will be your condition that day? Just imagine you got sick, you cannot able to cook, not going to the nature call or something. No one is there to carry you to the hospital, not even for the pills.
Yeah, that is correct. But you're saying in reality, I'll be alone and I'll be sick. Nobody is there to take care of me. But when I, like personally, if I fall down, I will be alone. Like personally, something has happened. I feel even though my family is there, husband is there, children are there, certain point I cannot share my pain and I feel lonely. Even that time I have to face alone. No.
That is very good point, sister. When they are surrounded you and you are fallen sick, but you should raise in them only. That is the main point. Even though they are not taking care of you, they're not listening your pain, they're not guiding you or comforting you. In that, when you raise, no, that will be shameful to them. So you are here for that reason. God has given you the life. You can show what you are. You have the victory, you have the mentality, everything. Among them, when you rise, so there are many people wants to, in Bible say, in Kannada, it is very nice, okay?
You can tell it in Kannada, I will understand.
You can understand in
Yes.
Kannada? ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆ 10,000 ಜನರು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನರ ಮುಂದೆ ಬಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ದೇವರು ನಿನ್ನನ್ನು ಎತ್ತಾನೆಂಬುದಾಗಿ. ಅವ್ರು ನಿನಗೋಸ್ಕರ ದೇ ಮೆನಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ತಗ್ಗುಗಳನ್ನ ತೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. They make pits to fall you. But when you fall and rise you up from that, people will not appreciate you. You have to appreciate yourself that you have raised from the pit.
Okay, I think Agnes, another Agnes here would like to answer that question because she's recently gotten married about 2 years ago, and she was also going through the same dilemma that you are in right now.
Okay. Actually, basically, marriage is, when God created marriage, it's basically a companionship. It was carried away in different names and different meanings in our modern life. It depends on the culture now. Like, for example, if it is India, it's like you have to take care of your husbands and family responsibilities. But actual meaning of marriage is companionship. You have to take care of each other. It's not just the wife to take care of her husband, nor the husband to take care of the wife. It's a mutual understanding between the husband and wife. It is a mutual companionship. It's not that everyone should get married. Even in Bible, Jesus says that there is some purpose for every individual. Say, like, not everyone is called to be married. God has called people also to serve him without getting married. But Jesus also said, if it is tempting and if it is making you to fall to sin, it is better to get married than to be single. So not everyone has the calling. For example, Mother Teresa, she didn't get married, but then she's accepted the calling of God and she served God. At the same time, you can see other people, like example us, we are getting married. It depends. Even now, there are so many nuns who have sacrificed their lives. So marriage, you cannot say it is important, but it is depending on the God's calling. If God has called you to get married, because I know deep inside that I have to get married. I cannot stay alone, even though I'm working or I'm standing in my own feet. It doesn't mean that I can be alone all the time. It's like companionship. If I'm sick, he'll take care of me. If he is sick, I'll take care of him. It's like you need a friend to share everything, but a friend will not be loyal or true to others, because certain point of time, even the friend will go away from you. But when you are married, it's like you have a more than friendship between the husband and wife. It's more than parents and children. So you've got the combination of all the relationship between husband and wife. So you will be secured when you get married, but it's not that a girl should always get married. Like I said, it's depending on God's calling, and you can stand on your own feet. even after getting married. So we always have the concept that if we get married, the girls will not be allowed for anything, or we cannot develop your career. But in my case, you know, even if I don't want to do anything, my husband will encourage me in doing, like, writing exams and developing my career, etc. So it depends. So marriage is always a companionship. It is not like a girl should be under men or men should be under women or nothing like that. It's a companionship, and you can live without marriage. It is according to God's calling. So if God has not called you to serve being single, you cannot be single. At one point of time, the devil will tempt you to fall into the trap. So you can marry or not marry. It depends on God's calling, and it depends on your strength.
Thank you, Agnes, for that. We have Jayant from online. He has a question for Pastor. He can't come on video because he's got internet, low internet. He's asking you, have you ever experienced God?
Yes, brother. What's your good name? Jayant. Jayant, I experienced God, and God is, first of all, is a spirit. Okay, always remember that. God is a spirit, and you have to experience God in the spirit form only. Okay, not physical form. In my life, when accepted Christ as my personal savior, I experienced God's presence is always there with me. Whenever I take each step, whether I should do this, not to do this, the Spirit of God, the inner being, will tell me that He will guide me. Many times we believe our own heart and our own mind. Sometimes it is so deceptive. It deceives you sometimes. So when I experienced God, I really understood that God's presence and God's guidance and God's, especially the love, when my Christ, my Savior, when He died on the cross, no one can die for me. No one can face that such a cruel death, a very dangerous death. We cannot imagine such a death He took for myself, for me. So when I saw that He was bleeding on the cross of Calvary, the blood, when people get in an accident, they go to the hospital, they need blood. Do you think there is a life in the blood? If there is a life in the blood, no life. Some people say yes, and some people say no. There is a life in the blood. That's why they give you the blood, not oxygen, first of all. So when Christ died for my sins, He gave me the life. That you experience as a father and mother, when they give birth, you experience your mother is beside you and your father is beside you. Not every time. Once you get the marriage, they will disappear. When the trouble comes, they will disappear. But my God, when He shed the blood on the cross of Calvary, the presence, the experience, the love, the kindness, the forgiveness, the mercy, till now, with you, I'm experiencing that. Jayant, is that okay?
Yep. Okay, we'll have last two questions. I think we'll wrap it up. Yeah, shall we? Rehan. Okay. Rehan, then ask a
Pastors,
question.
I think a lot of questions. Huh? Yes, yes.
Sir, we feel angry when someone scolds us. We feel laugh when someone make some jokes, right? That means we controlled by someone. Example, if I scold you by using dirty words, you may get angry.
Okay.
Right? That means I control you, controlled by me. Is that right? Is that right to leave?
Someone is controlling our life.
Yeah.
If I scold at you, you will get an angry. If I make some joke, you will laugh. So who is controlling exactly?
You.
Me?
That means I scold you, you may get angry with me. That means I know I can control you.
No. You are not controlling me. You are controlling, you have a remote. Your mind is a remote. Because if you receive what he says, whether should I receive it or neglect it? The remote control is in you. If you receive, if he scold at you, if you receive that with angry way, eventually, that means you're taking that, supplying that thing in your mind, and the mind will telling you should react like this. So you'll react with that. If we make some jokes and you will laugh because you are receiving with a positive way. So that mind and the control, the remote control is with you, not with anyone. You can control them. If they scold at you, laugh at them. So they will eventually get control. If they make joke at you, if you are angry, they will be understood whether you are controlling and they are controlling. Is that okay? Did I answer?
Thank you.
Yes, he is within us. Can you see the spirit? We cannot see. Do you think that whenever you choose some writings, is dependable? Are you depending on your own being, or someone tell you it is good that you are selecting the dress or something because you believe that it is good for me and this good food for me? How do you believe that it is good for you? Can you see that? Then you will believe that. So this is a way.
So this is my last question. To be frank, I want to be happy in future.
You want to be happy in future?
For that, what type of preparation I have to do in this stage?
What type of?
Preparations.
Preparation. Happy in the sense your life should be happy, or all the luxurious life like car, bungalows?
No, I don't believe that there is happy in that luxurious life like that all. I just believe in happy. I want to be happy.
You want to be happy. When you want to be happy, there must be someone who will give you the happiness. There will be a source in happiness. You have to find it out that where that happiness will get you. If you go and search and find it out throughout these days you spend, as you said, everything has a source, everything has a cause. That cause must be, you should know where that's really the source. You know, we want to get the borewell water, right? You'll search the waterways that exactly the fountain will be there. So during these days, you search where exactly you get the happiness. There are so many sources. Find it out. Good sources, not carnal sources or physical happiness. If you are mentally happy, eventually your physical will be very happy. So find out that where there are so many in the web, you can go where you can get the happiness. They will guide you. And surely do you pray? Okay, you pray. Ask God to help you to find this happiness. Why not? He will not. Surely he will give you because you want to be happy, right? So surely he will guide you and he will help you to give that happiness in your life.
Money is important to be happy?
Not at all.
Because I heard some people says like money makes many.
Money also is the worst thing, you know that? When you have a lot of money, the thief will attack you. You know one thing, where there is a gold and where there is a money, people will not sleep always. They'll keep on counting the money. They keep on checking the debit card, whether the money is there or no. Do they sleep? When they preserve something in the tijoris or something, okay, cupboards. If you go outside also, they'll be thinking whether it is there or not. If someone is there, no, you'll not be happy. How can you be happy? Somewhere you are there, you want to happy with your parents or your wife or your children's, but keeping all the money at home and can you stay without money there? You can stay, but you'll be thinking about the money, whether it is safe, secure or no.
How much preparation you give for money in your life?
I didn't get. Much means, how can I tell?
What's your preference of money in life? What's the priority of money in life?
See, feeding yourself first of all. That is very essential because body is there for feeding. If you feed yourself, eventually you feed your parents, husband, wife, and children. Feed yourself. Even I'm not experienced, okay, in the flight. So they will, whenever the flights shake something and there is no oxygen, they ask parents to take the first oxygen, right? Is it right? Right? I am not experienced. Yes, I heard it. Why? Huh? Anyone? Okay. They ask parents to take the first oxygen. Let them take first, then they can take care of their children. So take care of it. The money is important for what? For the clothes, for the shelter, for the stomach, whatever expenditure. Not more than that, anything. Why you want more money for that? Whatever you have, you enjoy it. So you are wearing the dress. Today you'll not wear the, what you're wearing today dress, tomorrow you'll not wear the same because you like it, that one. That means you'll not wear every day the same dress. Keep on you're changing. So is it money important then?
Thank you. I think we will close with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Alvin, you guys have not asked him a question.
Yeah, you
That's a
guys have
shame on
not
you.
asked me questions, but I felt answering. Okay, I'll come to that. I'll answer yours, and I have a couple of questions which I feel I need to add the answer. One is Agnes, and your name?
Adnan.
Adnan. So Adnan is suffering with short temper. Right? And you are suffering with, I believe, some marriage talk is going on in your house, according to what you say. Okay. Okay. Okay, so your whole question context is related to marriage. So I'd like to add on an answer to that and to give a tip to Adnan, and which might be helpful to all of you to control your anger. First, I'll come with Adnan. You see, anger is a type of emotion, what we have, right? And believe it or not, God has given us this ability to control our emotions. It's all in our hands and what effort you make to control it. So, you feel bad about being short-tempered. So you need to take an effort to suppress it. If you don't, you'll be the same or you'll become more worse in the later days. So how do you control your anger? If you want some, muscles in your body and you want biceps, good flat tummy, and what do? You work out, or to put it other way, you need to exercise. So if you want to remove your short temper, it cannot be done just by a tip, what I tell or what pastor tell or what anyone tells. It is not going to happen in one day. Okay, now since you have a thought that you need to suppress your short temper, that is the germination of a seed, which is for good. Now you need to water it. If you want that good thing to grow, and you want this bad thing, anger, to go down, you have to water the good thing. What is that good thing? To control your anger. So you have to take few efforts to control your anger. Like, what are you going to do? Number one, you think of an incident where you became very angry and what it led to. Say you became very angry with your friend and maybe it broke your friendship for a few days at least. Or maybe your closeness went off after that incident. So is that a loss or a gain? It's a loss. So think of another incident where you got very angry, say with your mom or with your brother, which also led to obviously a bad situation where it made you feel bad for 2-3 days because you quarreled with your mom, for example. And after 4-5 days, you forget about it. That is how emotion is. We are able to forget it, we are able to control it, and we are able to change it. Okay. So you think of these incidents. You think of these incidents every time when you get angry about your past. Angry will not, the anger will not shoot up like this. It does not start at this level. When someone is poking you, pricking you, or teasing you, slowly the anger will rise. Okay. So you will feel that. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ಕೋಪ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ you will understand within yourself. So what you need to do at that time is you need to control your mind that you should not get angry. Say you count some numbers, okay? Say count to 10 and you should not be angry till you count 10. Say if you are counting till 10 and if you feel that you're getting angry, you count till 20. Okay? Keep on counting. Do something or keep some measurement for the time at which you burst out. Okay? You try to delay that time out as much as possible. This is one thing. The other thing is you escape from that place. Okay, you vacate that place. Okay, some argument is going on, you vacate that place. Don't stay there. That will help you. Okay, so these are two things which I can tell you, which you need to exercise. Once again, I'm telling you. So today you go back, suppose you have some, again, a moment where you're going to get anger and you feel like implementing whatever I tell you. In second count, you will be angry. 1, 2, you will be angry. But you need to keep on exercising it every time, recalling what happened in your previous incidents because of your anger, which should not happen. That should be your motive. And you should make some exercise. I just gave you counting numbers as one trick. Okay. But you can think of whatever, you sing a song or change your mind or change the topic. Change the topic with whomever you are arguing with. So this is how you can overcome. Okay. Coming to Agnes. It's to
is it the guest Agnes or your wife Agnes?
Guest Agnes. With my wife Agnes, I keep on talking.
Wife's name is also Agnes. That's why.
Yeah. So marriage, right? So it's to prove you wrong. It's not only to girls whom parents say get married. It's also for boys. I'm one, where my mom insisted continuously, and then only I accepted with my wife, and we are married for 2.5 years now. So marriage, marriage is, getting partners, as she said, companionship. Why do we need it? We human beings are emotional species. We always get connected emotionally. Before I continue, I want you to tell who is your closest person in your life. Okay. Fine. Good. I expected you will tell your mom. Okay. Okay. You don't agree with the terms together. That is it, right? Same with my wife also. It's not a big deal. It happens in every house. Okay. So, human being is an emotional character, and we need someone along with us, along the path of our life, so that we can share, we can talk, we can have fun, we can love, and we can fight. And after a fight, when we get, again, coming back together, it's a different feeling which nobody can express until you feel it. Marriage is made by God, as Pastor has told, even she told. So all these things are there. But according to your point, why they insist women to get married and all your dreams are being suppressed, I don't say it happens like that, because even after marriage, you can pursue your dreams. Now you say that whether your future husband is going to allow you to do that or not. It all depends on how you carry forward yourself. Like, say you're career oriented based on whatever you told. You want to go abroad, you want to work, you want to pursue your career. So you need to express yourself to the boy, whoever you're going to get married, well before the marriage. You need to put what is your what are your values in your life. Obviously, God is there, your relationship with your parents or siblings are there, and your career. You need to let know your, before you get married, whoever boy you visit, you need to let know about him that you are interested in your career. So there are boys who wishes that their wife is excelling in their career, or who is very busy, studious, or who go to great heights. There are people who do not want their wife to work, do not want their wife to excel beyond them. There are people, husbands, who feel proud when wife gets excel to great heights. So you need to identify it before your marriage. And how do you do that? You hardly get 15 minutes or 10 minutes to talk to each other, right? It is very difficult to understand. But when you put your values, you talk to him that these are my points in my life and this is what I want to do after marriage. When you put it out clearly, you will understand, you can understand from his reaction or from his face, like whether he is okay with you or not okay with you. If he is completely not okay, he will say straight away that this is not what I expect my wife to be. Can you cancel all your dreams or going abroad? If such things come, you can decide this is not the guy for me based on your expectations, I'm telling you. So this is how you step into a marriage. You can evaluate it, not 100%, but to some extent you can evaluate it and go forward. So what happens after marriage? You told it's a burden to take care, why I need to cook. If no one is there, no marriage, I can drink water and sleep. Yes, you're right. It is always good to be free, without working, but it is also good to work, to put it other way around. Since you told you're not always with good terms with your mother all the time, but I would like to take the example of mother, which many of you will agree, because, who prepares food at your home? Mother. Is it difficult or easy for your mother to prepare food? Someone said easy. Okay. So no matter how much practice it is, doing it is again difficult, right? Practicing it, say you prepare sambar today, it takes 2 hours. You practice somewhere around after 10 times you prepare, it takes half an hour. You can't reduce the time beyond that. So it takes that time, it takes that effort. All that thing that happens is maybe a little bit faster it can happen. Okay, so mom cooks food for you, and you agree that it is a difficult part for her, and still she does it. Why? Exactly. You will also feel the same after marriage. If you start loving your husband, you will not feel this as a burden. I tell you, you will experience it. If you love your husband, when love comes along with whatever you do, it will not be a burden. I can give an example to that. People who go to gym, they work out, they jog, they lift the weights. You think all those things are easy? It's very difficult, to sweat. Initially they'll have a lot of pain in legs, hands, whole body pain. They'll suffer a lot in the early time of their workouts, but still they do. Why? Okay, you say that they'll feel good of the feedbacks, but the real thing is, yes, passion, or to put it other way around, they love to do it. That is a simple answer. They love to do it. They work out how much ever hard it is, they do it. You listen about Virat Kohli, okay, a very good cricket player in Indian team. So you all know that how he got transformed. He was a fat, fluffy, chubby guy when he entered into the cricket of Indian team. But later you can see how he changed his whole posture, in his body posture or his gymnastics and everything. Why he did that? It's not to show that he has biceps and good body, because in order to play cricket well, he need to be fit. In order to be fit, he need to sacrifice his food and all these stuffs and work out. And finally, you all know he's one of the best player, close to Sachin Tendulkar, everyone say, in his records, in his money, everything. Why he is doing that? Because love for cricket. He loves cricket. He want to achieve something in cricket. He went through all the struggle, which he will not say it is a struggle. The same thing I tell you, even in marriage, taking care of children, taking care of husband, your mother or your husband's mother will not be a burden at all if you are in a circle of love. And again, love will not like come like a spark and burn like a fire. It will burn, it will turn off, it will burn, it will turn off. It will be there, but it will not be turned off completely. So it all comes from experience. And as I heard about the divorces, what you have seen around, everyone will have problems. Which one we capitalize, that is going to give you the end result. So every husband and wife will have conflicts. Every husband and wife is made of difference in their thoughts. You ask any married people, me, Justin Anna, or Pastor, or anyone, show me one couple who says they have never fought any time in their life. At least they would have fought once at least for any matter, because their thoughts are always different. So how do you carry it around? You should not capitalize on such conflicts. You must understand that man and woman are made differently in their physical and in their mind. And this is how it is going to be. And you need to accept that fact and say, if there is a quarrel or if there is something that's going on, even now, whatever you are feeling that your career is not going to pursue, or what if my marriage happens? So all these things, all these are nothing but emotions again. And emotions, as I told you, it will pass away. Like how clouds form and pass away, this also will pass away. So every fight, every quarrel will also pass away. If you ask me, tell me all the fights I had with my wife, I'll not remember not much than 3 or 4 or 5, like that, minimum numbers. So that is how it is. It will pass on. Even later, as years go by, I will forget these 3, 4, 5 also. Why? Because I'll have to remember the new fights which are going to come up. So it's really joy, fun, laughter, marriage is, and you will not regret it if you are encircled it in the love. And all these things I'm telling you practically and personally. To put it in a biblical way, you need to keep God in midst of you. So if God is there in midst of you, all these things will be in place. And if there is a fight happening, if some misunderstandings are happening, it's only for the better understanding of you and your husband. So at this moment, you might hate marriage, but I tell you, as time goes by, you will also feel that you need a company to love. And when you get a child, nurturing a child is a much more different experience, which we are yet to have, but Anna has, and those your mom, your dad will have. When a child holds your hand, when you carry your child everywhere, that's a different feeling. All these things you will not get if you stay unmarried. So marriage has its own advantages, more positives, a lot of things are there which you need to experience. So I wish you all the best for your marriage, and all of you. If not today, sooner. Okay. And last thing, why I came into teaching field.
We'll give you only 1 minute to answer that.
Okay.
And then Pastor,
I'll finish
2
speaking.
minutes for Pastor, and then we'll close.
Okay.
I don't want the parents calling me now.
Oh, is it okay? So yeah. So one of my first stage experience was in first standard. Okay, in my school, when I entered into a speech contest, where I stood on the stage. We all know about speech contest, right? They give a topic, you need to speak about it. So I was well prepared. That was my first stage experience. I went on the stage, and looking at the crowd, I became completely blank and I started crying at the age of first standard, right? So my mom ran from the last bench. I still remember she came round the corridor, she took me and she went away. And that was my first and last stage experience. I never got into the stage until I completed, or maybe in my final year degree. Till then, I never entered the stage. And later in the final year, when I presented my first presentation, seminar and project and all these things, when I started to present, I felt that the listeners are understanding. I really felt that those who are listening are understanding, which really gave me a boost up that maybe I have a skill that I can make people understand. So later when I entered MTech, again seminars, I started teaching my friends, my juniors, about whatever they asked for. So they all said they're understanding it. So what is that? making me feel is that maybe I can become a good teacher, because the main thing for a teacher is to make everyone listen and understand. So which actually drove me away, and I had few role models, couple of teachers of mine, how students respect them, how students keep them as, oh, Namma Nagaraj sir, Nam Sadashiva Gaudar sir, they admire them. So I also wanted to be in that place where, students admire me, whether my speech or whether my teaching or whatever, my moral values. So I wanted to be in that position, and here I am. That's it. I've got 10 years experience as of now.
Thank you. Yes, Pastor, you have anything to say?
Yeah, about the
Last, you got only
marriage.
1 minute.
Okay, you took my mind. Sorry. So about the marriage, I'm telling you, it is very nice. Okay, you'll enjoy it. You'll see the pain, tears, happiness, everything you'll experience in the marriage. And someone will correct you. You think that I'm a perfect, but when my wife corrects me, I'll know that I'm unperfect, but she's making me perfect. So when I correct her, she will know that before I was unperfect, she's making making her perfect. No, in the Hinduism, they tali kattare, ಮೂರು ಗಂಟಾಗ್ತಾರೆ. Can anyone tell me what are the 3 things? Dharma, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ. In literally, if you find out husband and wife, and then in the middle, God should be there. ಮೂರು ಹಗ್ಗದ ಇನ್ನು ಬಾವಿ ಹಗ್ಗ ಜಗ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿರ್ತವೆ? 3 wire ಇರ್ತವೆ. 3 wires will be there. If this table is standing, it's because of 3 legs and 4 legs. Can anyone tell me and prove me scientifically with 2 legs and 1 leg, any things or any things can stand? Tell me, with 2 legs or one leg. The chair you are sitting are 4 legs. Not at all, 2 legs. If you cut out this one, make separate legs, can it? They hold that stick. I'm asking you 1 leg or 2 leg. Can anyone? Things I'm telling you, even the human being is forward. Things I'm telling you. If the things cannot stand, if there is no life, when you have your life, you have to stand with 3 things, means that you, your husband, and God in the middle. That marriage is successful when you put God in the middle. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೈಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, 3 ಹಗ್ಗದ ಬಾವಿ ನೀವು ಎಳಿತಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಎಂದಿಗೂ ಹರಿಯೋದಿಲ್ಲ. If you put 1 thread or 1 ಹಗ್ಗ, 2 ಹಗ್ಗ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹರಿಯುತ್ತೆ, but 3 it won't. So when you get married, I'm urging you as you're young in the future, when you get married, put anyway in any situation, where the happiness and the sadness, when the tears, when the joy, put God first. And sometime when we fight and all, and after that, as Alvin said, when you fight all those, remember what you have fought, okay? Remember always what you have scolded at your wife or husband. Remember those words, and after 1 week, you remember when you're happy. Did I talk foolishly, childishly like this? You feel yourself, you're very joker. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, Purnima. Thank you, Sahana. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Nayab, Rehan, Zafar, Adnan, Abid, Adnan again, Tahir, and Ansar and Pavan. Thank you very much for coming. I'm really honored that you accepted my invitation and you graced us here, and you've been sitting so patiently. All this feedback I'll share with you in the office, whatever I have to share. Okay, but we want to thank you on behalf of Bethel Biblical Baptist Church, on behalf of Pastor. Esther has left, and Ajaz has also left the online meeting. They convey all the very best for your future and to you too. If there's anything that you want to talk to them or anything like that, you may get in touch with them. I can share their numbers with you. Okay? And you're always welcome here. Okay? Anytime, come over. He stays here right in the back of the church. You can come and meet him, or you can come anytime you want. We want to invite you to for Christmas. We're going to have a big celebration at the church here, and we are also going to have a beautiful feast. So dinner or lunch and programs and goodies and snacks and music, but no dance, huh? Pawan? Pawan asked if he can dance in the church. I said, no, we don't dance in the church. So we invite you, please come over for Christmas if you're free and available here, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody online. Ankush is still here. Thank you, Ankush. Thank you, Jayant.
Thank you, sir.
Jayant, solpadru matadappa.
Thank you, Sam.
Ayyo. Thank you, Kada. Thank you. My wife is also here. Thank you, Ashwini, for joining. You want to say hi and bye, both? Probably she's kept it somewhere and gone. All right.
Hi.
Okay. So thank you, everybody, again. Thank you. Do you want to say thanks or something, Pastor?
Each and everyone. It's really good, and it's really good experience for me while you're asking the questions and answering, and it's really good time. Thank you so much once again.
So we'll all go out and I'm sorry. Okay, there are still more tea and snacks available. You can eat.
To finish up, okay, those snacks.
We will go outside and we'll take a pic. Yeah. Yeah. We have iPhones, 2 iPhones, and they are good in the night. Thank you.